Welcome to the Generation Why Not podcast with Ruth Klein, a 6-time best-selling author, creative brand strategist, and book coach for small businesses, entrepreneurs, authors, mompreneurs, and professionals today. She is the president of the award-winning firm Expert Celebrity Branding, and the Wall Street Journal calls her the marketing maven. This podcast will be interviewing this generation, those who are doing things differently because of their perceptual shift of what success looks like, and who are driven by attitude, not age. They know anything is possible, and you'll hear how this generation feels the fear and keeps going anyway to achieve their goals and dreams, whether they be in business, sports, the arts, or lifestyle.
Welcome to Generation Why Not? I'm your host, Ruth Klein. Generation Why Not is a generation of men and women whose age is unlimited. It can be anywhere from 20s to 90s. But the more important part is that for Generation Why Not, this generation sees work and life with unlimited possibilities of creativity. And they have a way of reimagining their business and their lives. And today we have definitely a Generation Why Notter with us. Her name is Aria, Raphael, and she is a self-actualization and manifestation coach. She's a channeler. She's a soul healer, a business and leadership consultant, and public speaker. She is one busy lady. She has been leading transformational programs for 14 years, and she has training in coaching, transformational practices, energy work, leadership, and organizational and management consulting. What I just love about this is what CEO or what manager would not want to have a business and leadership consultant that helps them manifest their desires in business or in life. How it's just so wonderful. She has this new program, and I love the name of it, so I want to share it with you. It's called The Alchemy of Living, and it teaches manifestation and deep healing of energy, emotion and consciousness, grounded living, because it's very easy not to get grounded when you're in this space, boundaries, which are so important, and alignment with one's highest path and outcomes. And it's definitely Aria's calling and passion to help individuals and businesses discover and fulfill their authentic purpose and greatest potential. Hi there, Aria. How are you?
I'm doing so great. Thanks, Ruth, for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I'm just so grateful that a mutual friend of ours said that we needed to meet. Boy, was she right on.
She was. She definitely was.
My goodness. Boy, she called it from the beginning. And that first conversation we had, I think we were on the phone for about an hour and a half. Wasn't that?
Hour and a half? Yeah. We had to make ourselves stop talking, actually, I think.
Oh, man, love that stuff. What do you do? I mean, I know I read this bio, but kind of give it to us in layman's terms. And why are you doing it?
Each person has a need, a want, a desire, and often we aren't able to see the full picture or the big picture or know how to get to that next step. And we all know that sometimes it's great to not just have a second mind to help contribute, but then also to be able to download or to intuitively access some of those perhaps right next actions and make some suggestions as well as to not just the big picture and the context, but also, what do we actually do to strategize, whether it's we're talking about our business or as entrepreneurs or business owners, but also very much so as individuals privately, in our own lives. I'm someone who combines both the intuitive higher guidance and higher information with a very grounded, structured practices, or again, practical grounded living, like you said. Why do I do it? First thing is that it really is a calling. I felt called to this about 14 years ago, and the calling keeps calling me back. So that's one reason. And it's just, it's not only hard not to answer a call, but really imperative, for our heart and for our sense of purpose. And the second reason is because I was always really feeling deep within myself that I wanted to make a difference, and everything I was up to in life wasn't quite it. And then finally, when this came upon me and I discovered this path for myself, I realized, oh, this is how I'm meant to make a difference. And so it's a way for me to provide my skills and my gifts, and perhaps you could call them talents, to help others to achieve and create and actualize. And then, of course, really ultimately, whether I'm helping an individual or a group, it's ultimately to make the planet a better place to be as well. The last reason I do it is because I love to learn, Ruth. I'm a voracious learner, and I crave it. And this work is so dynamic. It's always changing. So I'm always learning something new as I do it.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to you loving to learn. I love it. I mean, there was a time not that far ago, like last week, when all I wanted to do was drink coffee and read and just learn more about my craft and what we're talking about now, and just sit there and read. So didn't feel like doing anything else. We talked a little bit about that. What I love also, what you shared, Aria, is that, and I too, again, can relate to this. You have the left and the right brain going, which is so important. You've got the intuitive, higher information part of your brain, and it is integrated with the grounded living part of your brain. So that tells me your left and right brain are working and integrating for your clients. If I didn't have the left brain to keep me grounded, I often think visually of a balloon, and that balloon just keeps on going up in the air and becomes all up in the air. And the grounded part of my brain keeps me and my clients grounded so that we can move forward in a real and practical way. I think so many times, I don't know if you have found this, but so many times when people hear about self-actualization and manifestation and channeler and soul healer, they think, woo! Absolutely. They don't think of it, right? They don't think of it in terms of, wait a minute. You've not been able to use this in a practical form because perhaps you didn't learn the grounded piece that goes with it. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, this actually took me quite some time to figure out. I was always a very cerebral, very critical thinker. My sister was the one that believed in, all the things that couldn't be seen, like ghosts and whatever have you, right? I was like, maybe, I don't know. I was going through a lot of my transformational training, even from this very practical, cerebral kind of place. When I said yes to these gifts of mine, something cracked open for me. And it actually was very ungrounded because it was very expansive, has a tendency to sort of elevate us actually out of our body when we're doing this kind of psychic channeling kind of space. Clients would come and they would just be left with this beautiful, wonderful experience. But I always knew, I was like, no, this isn't it, because it needs to ground itself so that this can become really, really actualized or real for people in their everyday living. And for me too. So it took me some time to learn how to ground the channeling part down really in my physical body, honestly. Then be able to combine that with my coaching training and practices and, sort of make it this, call it one-stop shop, but it was this ability to actually provide coaching and something from a higher place as well. So that was a practice and a learning that took years actually to really bring the channeled space down into my body. And
that is why it's so important, as far as I'm concerned, that when a professional entrepreneur, CEO, manager works with someone that is an intuitive healer, that is an intuitive visionary, that they're very, they make sure that they also have that grounded piece. Otherwise, they're up in the air, and there has to be something that brings them back down so that they can actually implement some of those higher visions, if you will, intuitive hits.
Well, it depends on where the person is. So some people are naturally going to be more of that sort of expansive, maybe a little less grounded. And then others amongst us are going to be more grounded. And it just depends on the individual. The way I provide the information is, we still often will talk about structures and systems and, pieces that need to be put into play and place. But when there is something that's a little bit higher, I'm always going to do my best to help someone learn how to put it into practice in a grounded way.
Yes.
And if that is going to be that they need to ground in some way, so it just depends on the individual, really.
Love that. We end up where we end up because there's usually a pivotal experience, a pivotal moment. What was a pivotal moment for you that had you go down this career path? I know it was many things and perhaps it's just a lifetime, but if you had to focus on a pivotal moment that really explains it or opens it up, what would it be?
There's one and then an additional one. But the first one was I had two separate friends suggest that I take this personal development transformational course. And I finally, after 2 years of suggestions, took it. It was really very impactful. And then I just kept craving more. I didn't know I wanted this. This wasn't something I knew I was looking for in life, per se. I just said, okay, I want to take another course, and okay, I want to take another course. And I just kept feeling led. And so I did. And that led me to be trained in more public speaking, more leadership and coaching. Then at the very same time from that course, my gift actually opened, which, if people don't know, that actually is the ability to speak to people who have died. I can tell you that it freaked me out. I was not interested in this. I was not seeking this. Again, very cerebral, very critical thinker over here, right? I don't know if I believe in that. And suddenly, I knew that there was a soul, or not a dead person, but like a soul in my kitchen who had died and who was needing my help. And oh my goodness, it was a lot. So that and channeling gifts that opened right after I took that courses. I said no to it. So this leads to the next pivotal moment. So I was being trained as a coach and I was doing coaching, but I'd said no to these psychic channeling gifts because they freaked me out. And the next pivotal moment was this experience that there was something I was supposed to say yes to. And I didn't know what it was yet. But it was an experience that if I don't say yes to it, my whole being, my soul is going to feel like I was suffocating or feeling like I was going to, my soul was going to suffer somehow, but I couldn't define it yet. I went to a session of someone who channeled. I got in that session that I was supposed to do what she was doing. And that led me to say yes again. And then from there, that was the channeling piece of it.
It sounds like, Aria, your spirit would not allow you to ignore it. And even though you willed it, by ignoring it, it kept coming back.
There's a lot of people that experience that there's something more, right? And we come to the point where we just feel like we can't say no anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting. So many times this happens when people want to write books. And they may feel, or a TED Talk even, and they may feel that, no, I don't want to do that for whatever reason. And their spirit knows better. And it keeps coming back to hound them. And this might be a year later, 5 years, or 7 or 8 years later. But when things are meant to be, I truly believe the spirit won't let you rest until you pay attention.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Agreed. I agreed.
I love that. Share with us, what do you wish you had known then that you know now that you're using in your business?
In terms of structured business, when we're going to talk business, we want to talk about things like communication. We want to talk about our systems that we use, our point of sale systems. We want to talk about, our budgets. We want to talk about what we're providing for our customers or our clients. So there are, of course, the people we need to hire, and there's lots of things in the really practical elements for our business. But, the things that are for me personally do tie into my business, but they're also experiential. So I'm just going to speak to those for myself because I think they can be relatable. For me personally, and if anyone else does sort of see a thread in this for themselves, then cool. But as a channeler, here's one thing I wish I had then that it took me a long time to learn. I certainly think I found mastery, at least at this point. But that is that when you're channeling something, because it is from a higher informational place, there are a lot of realities out there, right? And there are a lot of different consciousnesses out there. At any one time, we can be connecting to a reality or a consciousness that serves our ego's desires or our emotional needs. Like we want to believe in something because that belief suits our emotions and so fulfills something for us emotionally, right? But really it's not what we call aligned, which is not, it doesn't really have integrity with a grounded reality or a grounded actual fact or truth. I had to learn not to connect to realities or consciousnesses that were not my own, but were human made, so to speak, but instead, and that just served, some other reason for me, and instead learn only to connect with my own highest light, my own highest truth, and integrity there, which is where the grounding actually started to come in. We actually see it looks like a lot of this might be happening right now in the world. There's a lot of realities going on out there. A lot of people are really confused. Learning how to not over connect to those consciousnesses that are not in truth aligned or in best interest for us as individuals and for us as a group, and how to really then ground that down and not pay attention to the rest, honestly. I took a lot of time to learn that lack of distraction from what we call the highest truth for ourselves and for others. So I had to learn how to do that certainly as a channeler, but also really, as a coach and a consultant as well, and then how to provide that integrity of highest information for each person that I'm working with. So that was the first thing I had to learn. And obviously that impacts my business. It impacts the integrity of even potentially of the result for a person, and them finding their own authentic truth, right? Yeah. The next one does relate to business. It's also experiential, and it, for me, played into my business a lot, which is that I learned, or had to learn, I wish I had gotten it sooner, which is that I can achieve a lot, or we can achieve a lot without overworking. I used to be really a workaholic. I worked 7 days a week. I loved it. It was like I got a thrill from it. Like I was really passionate and I loved it. And then I realized that I was exhausted and burnt out, and I was coming from sometimes fear and scarcity. And, I'd say to my friends, well, why don't we ever hang out? And they're like, Aria, you work all the time. We don't have to work really hard to produce a result. Instead, we can have really amazing outcomes and really incredible results, a very high level, profits, etc., by being in the flow of something and being in the flow of, if you want to go in the spiritual definition, it's really divine will combined with your own will, but and allowing that to move through you and guide you. But you don't even have to use those really spiritual terms, honestly. It's just really being in the right action in each moment, and understanding which right action is going to be the most efficient and most effective to the result, and then throwing out the rest. And learning how to do that certainly improved my life and my business immensely. So every action I was taking suddenly was very efficient and very effective, instead of a lot of wasted time and energy.
Let me ask you, I get the overdrive, all right. I definitely get overdrive. How do you view, from a higher level of consciousness, what's happening with the coronavirus? What do you see there? And how can we navigate? What's going on, and how can we navigate?
Great question. One of the first pieces is that we're naturally, as bioorganisms, we're going to get sick. This has happened before, and it will happen again. It's just the nature of being a bioorganism. Every country is a little bit different. It's a little bit challenging to answer in terms of, because which culture am I speaking to in any given moment? It comes down to, so very simply, is what can we do to care for ourselves in a most simple and effective way? That is to limit exposure to the virus for those who are not well. Who are well, rather. Excuse me. And now, if you're going to go, big picture, and you want to ask, what is the purpose of all of this? kind of a thing. Well, again, it comes back to we're bioorganisms and this is going to happen. It's how are we dealing with it? And this isn't from my opinion. It's more like how are we dealing with it? And there's very simple truths in every single moment. You know, when we're following our own divine knowledge within, we can feel and sense, oh, I shouldn't go to the grocery store right now. And you never know why, but suddenly, you know, you come to understand, oh, it was because there was an outbreak at that store or something like that. And so we have to not come from fear, but come from what's going to care for me and what's going to care for really people around me. We could go a lot longer, but the very simple truths are often the best answer. And right now there's just a lot of overthinking about it versus, you know, simple guidance from one moment to the next in terms of what's right for me in protection of myself and others. And that's not even getting into the debates that are out there. That's just actually aligned living. Like where should I be and where should I not be? It's a much bigger conversation. I feel like we could probably have a whole call on that, but if I was to I think that's that's how I boil it down in as much time as as we have. So
yeah. No, I love that. You know, I've heard, and it seems to resonate, that we're going, which you had mentioned, you know, where's the meaning here? What's the purpose? And I've heard, I don't know, but I've heard that it's opening up a whole new level of consciousness and opening up where there's some real divisiveness, which might be the starting point of a different type of consciousness than we've been privy to or paid attention to. Does any of that align?
Yeah, here would be the best and closest aligned answer I've been getting, which is that potential is always available. And the potential for awakening has been present for some time. It's been available for some time for individuals. And many, many individuals have been realizing this potential of awakening in consciousness for decades. So we don't want to undermine that there are people who have already discovered the answers long before even I did, right? The ones that I have already, at least the ones I've discovered. There's more to discover. But the potential is always available in every moment. And what has been happening is a buildup to this awakening in consciousness. It's been happening for quite some time. So there are already a number of people who are sort of have long come before me, 100 years and decades before. And then, you know, each of us are start to jump on the bandwagon. When we had this opportunity to be still for a moment, it opened up the awakening at another level, is really what it is. It wasn't that what I've been getting it wasn't that the divine said, let's have there be a virus in order to awake it. It's let's use the virus as a moment of opportunity to awaken the potential in people.
Love that. Love that distinction. Love that distinction. So what is one last gem that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Whether we are talking about our lives on a regular basis or we're talking about our businesses, always seek more knowledge. First of all, of course, always understand that we can never have learned too much. There's always more to learn, always more to learn. And then constantly be giving up what you know. There is a really strong balance between learning more and knowing more and then surrendering and relinquishing what we know. Because the moment that what we know becomes an opinion, it's fixed. And the moment that it's fixed, it doesn't have room to move and it doesn't have room to grow and it doesn't have room to expand. And so our wisdom becomes limited. So even if you're striving to be a successful business owner or manager or president or CEO, whatever the case may be, or financial officer, and you know all these things, then, okay, great. Let that, inform your spreadsheets or your staff meetings. Great. But then also let go of what we know, because in the next moment, even if you don't think you're psychic, and even if you don't think you are someone who can sort of be a conduit, by just letting go of what you know in a moment, you can then suddenly perhaps download something you didn't even know was there and see something from a new perspective or a new angle that then makes the entire difference for your business, your organization, your group, or your life, or your marriage, or your, fitness, or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's really being open to possibility at all times and not getting attached to any one outcomes. Wow. I love that. I love it. So how can people get a hold of you? What's the best way to reach you?
That's the way to reach me. You can go to either one of my websites, but you can access both through my primary website, which is ariaraphael.com, which is AriaRaphael.com. And you can access, it's just because there's email access from there as well. So that's probably the best way to go. You can also go to the more business-oriented one, which is charismaunlimited.com.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing some beautiful insights and North Star truth. Very, very powerful. Very powerful. Thank you so much.
And thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Good. It was fun on this end too. And we will be speaking to each other a lot more, I'm sure.
Yes, most definitely.
All right. Take care.
Thank you so much.
I just loved what Aria was talking about. So I want to hit just a few highlights. There were many, but Aria said what she does is offers a second mind to help make changes and ask the questions, really the hard questions, on an intuitive level. I think a lot of times coaches, financial advisors, lawyers, people in their respective industries, it doesn't matter in what industry, because we have a good grasp and experience around our topics, our industry, we have this intuitive element when we're asking questions. And it really truly is that it really helps to have a second mind that helps make changes and transformational viewpoints, and by asking some of the hard questions. And many of those questions are intuitive. And that's what I love about having mentors and coaches and really good financial advisors and on and on and on. And I think we pretty much spoke about, because I think this is so important, that when you work with someone who has a strong intuitive side, that you also make sure they have a strong grounded living side. I love what Aria said. She put grounded and living together. And that is powerful, very powerful. Otherwise, you can just be in this zone. It's a beautiful zone. But how do you take these wonderful insights and apply them? And that's where I believe the grounded living comes in. It's interesting because now we're talking about the virus. I think it's very true. Certainly for me, I tend to overthink it instead of just going with my intuitive knowledge and know-how. And, all of us have experienced where we have done something where our intuition said, do it or do not. And we have followed it and we've really felt really good about it. And of course, it's always been those times also when we had an intuitive hit, we didn't follow it and we wished goodness we had. And I love what she had to say. It's really about aligned living, both in your career and in your life. And of course, Aria is so accurate to say potential is always present and available. I love that. And, Generation Why Not? It's so paramountly important to stay open to possibility, just because what you're really doing is staying open to potential. That's always present and available. Thank you for joining us. Until next time, I look forward. Generation Why Not is a generation that is driven by attitude, not age. Until next time, bye-bye.
Thank you for joining Generation Why Not. We look forward to receiving any questions you may have, as Ruth will be answering them on this podcast. Follow Ruth.Klein on Instagram or email rklein@ruthklein.com. Until next time, a short reminder that success is driven by attitude, not age.